Well, good morning, folks. As we look at Psalm 30 again, and as I was preparing this devotional, I was reading a sermon by an old preacher from a bygone age. And he said in the sermon something very telling about the Psalms that I hadn't really thought of before. He says the glory of the Psalms is that they are lived before they are written. Truth is known in experience. He puts it like this: truth has been hammered out on the anvil of the psalmist's own soul. We certainly see that in Psalm 30 and in the verses that I want us to focus on this morning. Verse 5 reads, "His anger is but for a moment, and his favour for a lifetime. Weeping may endure for the night, but joy comes with the morning." You recall in our previous study of this psalm how David, on account of his pride in his kingdom and trust in the number and power of his soldiers, his army, had been chastened by God. God had sent a plague, and that plague had devastating effects upon David's people. 70,000 were wiped out in a few hours. And David must have been deeply distressed about this. He calls out to God for mercy, that God would stop the plague. During the period while the plague raged and God's chastening hand was upon him, David experienced great sorrow. He knew he was to blame. He was the guilty party. He had sinned. We know from David's Psalms that he was a very sensitive soul, and so to see people dying around him on account of his sin undoubtedly vexed him. He went to God in prayer. Verse 2, "O Lord, I cried to you for help, and you have healed me." God stayed his hand. He withdrew the plague. He ended the period of chastisement. And God's mercy to David and to the people was a source of great joy to David. Thus, verse 4, "Sing praise to the Lord, O you his saints, and give thanks to his holy name." And then the word "for" in our verse. "For his anger is but for a moment. His favour lasts for a lifetime." Weeping may tarry, may endure, may lodge for the night, but joy comes with the morning. Brethren, God only chastens his people so long as they need to be chastened. You remember the words of the writer of the book of Hebrews: "Whom the Lord loves, he chastens." And he goes on to say that all discipline seems painful rather than pleasant, but later it yields the peaceful fruit of righteousness to those who have been trained by it. David certainly was trained by the chastening of God's plague. Now, whilst not all our tears are to be traced to God's disciplining of us on account of our sin, it has to be said that many of the sorrowful, painful, distressing experiences in life can, if the taproot is traced out, they can be found to have their origin in sin. Maybe something that we've said or done. Maybe something that we've refused to do, some duty neglected, some responsibility ignored. Maybe some relationship marred by our words or our actions, and they cause tears. However, when we acknowledge our sins, when we confess our sins to God, and when the chastening hand of God is withdrawn from us, what joy we have in the aftermath of that. The joy of knowing that God dealt graciously with us. The tears of sorrow giving way to joy. The joy of knowing that Things have been restored between ourselves and God. We once again have that close relationship with Him that we didn't have while sin prevailed. The joy of having personal relationships restored to what they ought to be, personal friendships, the joy of true fellowship with our fellow believers that wasn't there because of sin. Sin inevitably leads to tears. Joy is to be found in God's forgiving and restoring grace. Now, there are, of course, tears and sorrows in life that are not associated with our own personal sins. They're associated with the fact that we live in a fallen, sinful, imperfect world. And in God's providence, the dark clouds of life's experiences and trials often bring us to tears. It's good to remember when those dark clouds of providence are over us that such times will pass. Our tears will, in time, give way to joy once again. I know it's hard to imagine it when the tears are flowing. It's hard to imagine it when the dark clouds are above us and widespread all over. But by faith, we can lay hold of this verse in Psalm 30. Weeping may tarry for the night, but joy comes with the morning. Weeping is depicted like a lodger who comes and stays for the night. There is a time when we will weep, but eventually He will up and leave us and move, no longer resident with us. Jesus said to His disciples, "You shall be sorrowful, but your sorrow will turn to joy." And that's true of life's experience. One day, for us as God's people, God will wipe away all tears from our eyes, because there will be no more sorrow, as He tells us in Revelation 21. Take hold of these words of the psalmist, written from his own experience, written for our learning. Tears may lodge with us for the night, for a time, but joy will come in the morning. The tears will eventually give way to joy. May God bless you this morning. Have a great day.